This is Nejum, and the year is around 1450 BCE. Nejum wakes at dawn in a mud-brick townhouse with several rooms, better than most Egyptians will ever own. Breakfast is bread and mild beer, with onions, dates, and sometimes a little fish, because his family can afford variety. And yes, beer, even for a teenager. In ancient Egypt, beer was often safer and more nutritious than plain water. The brewing process removed harmful microbes, and the drink itself was packed with grain, yeast, vitamins, and calories. It was so essential that workers received it as part of their wages. Clean water matters here because Nejum's village sits away from the Nile, and water must be carried in. That river is everything. Most of Egypt receives very little rain. It is desert except for a ribbon of green along the Nile. The delta in the north, though only a small fraction of Egypt's land, produces an enormous share of its grain and feeds millions. Nearly the entire population lives pressed against the river. Nejum dresses in a clean white linen kilt and stands before a polished bronze mirror as he gets ready. Good linen is a quiet mark of status. He then lines his eyes with black kohl, which helps cut the sun's glare and keep flies away. His mother runs the household, directing a helper the family shares with neighbors. Religion fills every corner of the home, amulets and small shrines to household gods like Bes and Tauret. Then his father leaves for work. And his father's job explains everything about this family. They live in Set Mot, or the Place of Truth, the ancient name of today's Deir el-Medina, a government-built walled settlement near Thebes. This is no ordinary village. It houses the elite craftsmen who carve and decorate the pharaohs' tombs in the Valley of the Kings. Its residents are hand-picked state employees who know royal secrets. So, the community is restricted and kept apart from ordinary settlements. Nejum's father is a scribe there, and being a scribe means far more than nice handwriting. He calculates grain volumes, land areas, building materials, rations, taxes, and transport needs. He records attendance and the excuses for missing work. And they are remarkably tolerant by ancient standards. Brewing beer was an accepted reason to stay home. He issues tools, including those made of bronze, notes when they're returned, and asks hard questions whenever anything made from the precious metal goes missing. Because bronze is expensive, it needs two metals, copper and tin. Egypt once had abundant copper, but demand grew so much that it now imports more from a Mediterranean island that would later give copper its very name, Cyprus. However, it was not the lack of copper that was the problem. Tin was the bigger issue. No nearby region has enough, so it travels from as far as Central Asia, in today's Uzbekistan and Tajikistan. And Egypt isn't alone. The Hittites, Mycenaean Greece, and Babylon all depend on imported tin. This created the first truly globalized trade networks in human history. Unlike many believe, it wasn't bronze itself that made these kingdoms rich. It was the immense trade built around obtaining it. Meanwhile, nobody has figured out how to smelt iron effectively. Most iron comes from meteorites, which they called the metal of the sky, and it's worth more than gold. Tutankhamun would later be buried with a famous dagger made of it. Nejum's father carries two inks, black for normal writing, red for headings, corrections, and the names of dangerous spirits or enemies. He's also the payroll officer. Workers are paid in grain, oil, and beer, and he counts every ration, which means everyone knows exactly whom to complain to. Nejum wants this life, and he's earning it at scribal school. Only around 1% of Egyptians can read, and scribal work is one of the very few paths to elite status that doesn't involve fighting. Scribes do no manual labor and pay no tax. He practices on pottery shards and smoothed wood called ostraka, because papyrus is far too costly for a student, and it is not those popular ornate hieroglyphs that he learns. Those are reserved for monuments. What he learns is called hieratic, a faster, simplified script for everyday use. Mastering hundreds of signs takes years, and discipline is harsh. Egyptian school texts openly connect learning with physical punishment. Teachers also motivate through fear. Texts describe farmers menaced by crocodiles, soldiers suffering in wars, laundry workers smelling awful, all just to prove office work is superior. Now, the inhabitants of Set Mot rarely leave the settlement, but today is different. The ancient Egyptians were the first to develop a 365-day calendar, combining astronomical observation with the annual flooding of the River Nile. They divided the year into 12 months of 30 days each, then added 5 extra festival days to complete the year. However, their months were divided much differently into 3 10-day periods. Royal workers like those of Set Mot typically worked 8 days followed by 2 days off, along with numerous religious holidays. And tonight begins the beautiful Festival of the Valley. Families cross to the cemetery areas of the West Bank and gather at the tomb chapels of their ancestors. A divine statue is carried across the Nile in a huge procession, and this is no quiet memorial. Families feast among the graves, wear fine jewelry, dance to musicians, and drink heavily on purpose, believing intoxication helps them connect with the gods and their departed loved ones. There, Nejum meets his uncle, a farmer from the Delta, whose life fascinates him. It revolves entirely around the same annual flooding that Egyptians used to come up with concept of a year. Interestingly, Egypt received very little rain. Most of it is a desert. The flooding is caused by summer rains that fall over 1,500 kilometers away in the Ethiopian Highlands, whose waters flow north through the Nile into Egypt. From July to October, farmland vanishes underwater, and farmers may be drafted for unpaid state work like canal repair. But the flood leaves behind rich, fertile silt. If it fails, famine can follow. Come November, his uncle plows with oxen, scatters seed by hand, and drives animals over the fields to press it into the mud. By March, he harvests emmer wheat and barley. He doesn't own the land. Officials measure his fields and take grain as tax, sometimes estimating the crop before it's even cut. His family eats bread, beer, onions, and legumes, meat only on festivals. But today is a festival. So tonight, everyone feasts.